Now we will continue the course for Commercial Mechanical Inspector exam, this M2. We are now in chapter number 6, chimneys and connectors. 6. Chimneys and connector recommended study 120 minute module number 6 required reference in International Mechanical Code 2021 Chapter 8 and the International Fuel Gas Code 2021 Chapter 8. Chimneys and connectors for liquid and solid fuel appliances. This is International Mechanical Code Chapter 8. Okay, illustration 6a chimneys. We just finished module 5 dealing extensively with vent. This module will help you learn the code requirements for the chimney and chimney connectors. Study tip. Starting with chapter 8 out of the International Mechanical Code, this chapter covers chimney and vent for appliances fired with fuel that are not fuel gas. When we touch on the International Gas Code, chapter number 5, later in this module, it deals with chimney and vent of fuel gas appliances. We will not cover the sizing of chimneys in the module. Sizing of chimneys is done in similar fashion to the sizing vent. Refer to module 5 for details. General requirement for chimney. It's International Mechanical Code 2021 section 801. Did you know masonry chimney are constructed per the International Plumbing Code, but sizing according to International Mechanical Code and the International Fuel Gas Code.
Masonry linings. Masonry chimneys must be lined with a material that won't crack, soften, or corrode from exposure to flue gases, condensate, and temperatures up to 1800 degrees Fahrenheit. Clay and metal linings are the most common. The space around a lining cannot be used to vent an appliance, but another liner can be installed in the same chimney.
The code outlines requirements for connecting fireplaces to the chimney flue. Let's look at the summarized list that we have put together showing these requirements. Study tip: fireplace to chimney flue connection requirements. A seal is required to prevent entry of room air into the flue. Access to the flue is required for inspection and cleaning. The appliance must be listed or rated for the factory built fireplace flue used. A connector from the appliance to masonry fireplace flue required and must have access for inspection and cleaning. A solid fuel fireplace cannot share a flue with another appliance. Chimney size. The cross-sectional area of flue for a solid fuel appliance must be at least the size of the flue, the collar connecting on the appliance, but no more than 3 times the size, so 1x to 3x is permitted. Think about it. When an existing chimney is used for a new appliance, the chimney needs to be resized to control the condensation and provide the required draft. Connectors, International Mechanical Code 2021, Section 803. Here, the connectors. Illustration 6b, connectors from boiler to the chimney. Unless the chimney or vent is attached directly to an appliance, a connector is used to get the flue gases from the appliance to the chimney. Here's a barometric draft. Illustration 6c, reduction from the flue collar not allowed. Connector can't be smaller than the flow cooler on the appliance, not even for the last 3 inches like we seen in the oil furnace. Let's look at the code requirements found in the International Mechanical Code for chimney connector. We have summarized the important ones below. Remember that we are reading for familiarity, not trying to memorize. Study tip: chimney connector requirements. Manual number are not allowed here except for solid fuel burning appliances. Manual number is only for solid, this important, solid fuel appliances only. Okay, for more than one connector, the smaller connector should be at the height level. Think pyramids or snowman. Connectors are limited to a length of 75% of the chimney height. Connectors must slope up to the chimney at least quarter inch per foot. Connector must be at least 12 inch above the bottom of the flue, the inside of the chimney. A clean out is required at least 6 inches below the bottom connector. Table 803.91 and minimum chimney connector thickness for low heat appliances, diameter of connector per inch. If it's 5 and smaller, the minimum nominal thickness, galvanized thickness is 0.2 to 26 gauge. Okay, this for the low heat and this is for the medium heat. Illustration 6D tables 803.9 vent connector thickness. Sorry. Taken from the International Mechanical Code, connectors are always metal and with equivalent resistance to the corrosion and heat as the thickness of galvanized steel listed in 803.91 for low heat appliances and 803.92 for medium and high heat appliances. Chimney connector system for 10-inch diameter and smaller. Take a look at this illustration showing clearance requirements for chimney connectors according to the system.
Working through illustration 6E, table 803.10.4 provides a selection of systems that can be used to pass through combustible wall materials to get to the chimney flue. Note that the chimney connector system requirements here are different from the minimum clearances required from the connector to any other combustibles, which we'll discuss after looking at this next illustration. The chimney connector systems here can only be used for chimney connectors that are 10 inches in diameter and smaller. Notice that depending on the selection made by the designer and installer, the clearance to combustibles can get down to 2 inches in System D. It should also be noted that these systems are for domestic heating appliances only.
As we see here, System A, this 12-inch clearance. As we see here, 12-inch minimum to combustible, fire clay linear. Okay, requirement 3.5-inch thick brick wall framed into the combustible wall. A fire clay linear 5 by 8 inch thick is used as a sleeve in the center of the brick through which the connector passes. System B, 9-inch clearance. This uses a solid insulated factory built chimney section with 1-inch insulation as a sleeve for the chimney connector. Uses sheet steel support to keep 9-inch clearance to combustible. System C, 6-inch clearance, this one. This uses a steel ventilated sample as a sleeve for chimney connector at least 24 gauge with two 1-inch channel, uses steel support to keep 6-inch clearance to combustible, uses glass fiber insulation in the space between the symbol and the combustible. System D 2-inch clearance uses a solid insulated factory built chimney section, but unlike system B, make it 2-inch larger in diameter than the connector, uses chimney connector with at least 24 gauge thickness, uses sheet steel support to maintain 2 inches of clearance and 1 inch of air space around the connector. Illustration 6E table 803.10.4 connector pass-through out. Connectors are limited to the space that contain the appliance, except that connector can pass through combustible walls or partition when the connector is labeled or rated for wall pass-through installed through a device labeled for pass-through installed per table 803.10.4 and are more than 10 inches in diameter. International Mechanical Code Appendix provide figure illustrating various connector passes through. Clearance requirement from Table 803.10.6. Connector must be maintain a minimum clearance to combustible as listed in Table 803.10.6 unless listed and labeled for different clearance. Table 803.10.6. Let's talk about Table 803.10.6. First, let's remember that the International Mechanical Code cover liquid and solid fuel appliances only. This is important to think about as we read through the table.
Reading through Table 803.10.6. Take a look at this table in your IMC, and we'll go over some highlights together. Note that all domestic and low heat commercial appliances, that which is below 1000 degrees Fahrenheit, have an 18-inch clearance requirement. L vents in use are reduced to 9-inch clearance. Medium heat commercial appliances above 1000 degrees Fahrenheit require a 36-inch clearance. And then high heat commercial appliances above 2000 degrees Fahrenheit will have clearances determined by the code official.
Understanding the code. Required clearances for connectors are given in the International Mechanical Code section 803 and note that clearances are reduced by following section 308 in the International Mechanical Code and International Gas Code. Clearance reduction and protective assemblies. International Mechanical Code 2021 Chapter 3 Section 308 International Gas Code 2021 Chapter 3 Section 308. What is meant by clearance reduction? A clearance is referring to the minimum required distance between combustible material and potentially hot surface of chimney or vent and kitchen exhaust appliances and equipment. Defining terms. Under certain circumstances, a required clearance can be reduced and allowed clearance reduction typically through using the protective assembly unless is specifically prohibited by the appliance or equipment listing.
Protective assemblies. The protective assembly used for clearance reduction must be non-combustible. It must allow air to move around in the clearance space. The protective assembly cannot be closer than 1 inch to the appliance or device that requires the clearance, regardless of any clearance reduction obtained by following Section 308. Allowable clearance reduction methods are found in IMC Table 308.4.2 and IFGC Table 308.2. Where required clearances are not listed in the tables, The reduced clearances can be determined by linear interpolation between the distances listed in the table. But extrapolating below the range of the table is not allowed.
Did you know? Interpolate and extrapolate are often mixed up words. Interpolate means that you are determining a value between values that you know. Example, if you earned a $50,000 from doing inspections last year and a $30,000 from inspection 3 years prior, how much did you make 2 years ago? Interpolating halfway between $30,000 and $50,000 is $40,000. From interpolation, you can predict that you probably earned about $40,000. Extrapolation using the trend of the values you do know to determine value you don't. They lie outside the range of known values. Example, how much do you expect to make from inspection in the coming year? Extrapolation would say that you will earn $60,000 based on the 10,000 increased per year that you have seen over the past couple years. Think about it. From the above example, we can see that extrapolation is prone to a lot more errors than interpolation. Extrapolation is generally not allowed for any table in the code. Reading table 308.4.2, the first four entries in the International Mechanical Code table 308.4.2 all have nearly the same clearance reduction. Not only so, they also all involved number 24 gauge sheet steel. Therefore, it makes sense to choose the easiest or cheapest of those options for the field. Understanding practice. Half-inch inorganic board isn't as good as sheet steel, and brick walls are only an option for vertical combustible assemblies, yet also not as good as sheet steel. The International Fuel Gas Code Table 308.2 had all the same information as the International Mechanical Code Table 3008.4.2 with the addition of another insulation board option. Type of protection, and here as we see 3.5, for example, 3.5-inch masonry without ventilation, it's multiple not allowed. Okay, above and sides and rear is 2 by 3, medium distance for the sides and rear 5 inches. Illustration 6F, Summary of International Mechanical Code Table 308.4.2 and International Gas Code Table 308.2. We have created this table because it simplifies these two tables found in the code. You can refer to this as you read through and understand the two tables in our table. Simply multiply the clearance required by the fraction in the table to find the allowed reduced clearance. Exceptions to clearance reduction. There are exceptions to the allowable clearance reduction in the code. What are they? Let's read through them together so that we are aware of them. Study tip. Exception to the clearance reduction table. Solid fuel burning appliances are required to have at least 12 inch of clearance with no exception. Masonry chimney connector pass through reference illustration 6e masonry fireplaces and kitchen exhaust duct cannot have their code required clearance reduced. Air conditioning appliances, central heating furnaces, and low pressure boilers are permitted to have reduced clearance only as allowed by the manufacturer instruction. Supply air ducts have the same minimum clearance to combustibles as required for the furnace. Supply plenum for the distance of at least 3 feet from the supply plenum. Clearance is not required beyond the 3-foot distance. Here this is a construction using combustible material, plastic or unplasted. Here this is the distance A, this is B, C, and C. Okay. Illustration 6G extent of protection necessary. Figure 308.2.1 taken from the International Fuel Gas Code showing how far the protection must extend to protect the combustible material from the heat of the vent
Matching the
connection.
C distance to A. We see in illustration 6G that when the clearance is reduced, added protection must extend the distance in either direction until that distance equals letter A, which represents clearance with no protection, or rather no reduction in clearance.
Direct vent, integral vent, mechanical draft system. International Mechanical Code 2021, Chapter 8, Section 804. Generally, the venting for direct vent, integral vent, and mechanical draft system should simply follow the manufacturer installation
Functions of each type.
instruction.
Let's quickly talk about these three vents and system mentioned. Direct vent, integral vent, and mechanical draft systems are not mutually exclusive of each other. A direct vent refers to an appliance that brings combustion air from outside and pipes it directly to the combustion chamber. An integral vent simply refers to the combustion or exhaust fan being supplied by the manufacturer of the appliance and installed in the appliance. And mechanical draft systems are any venting system that is powered by mechanical means. All of these can exist within the same system or setup.
Mechanical draft system, the mean of venting a system to remove flue or vent gases, can be on all appliance type 1 to 4. Remember the 4 venting categories from module 5. Categories 1 and 2 are under negative pressure, while categories 3 and 4 are under positive pressure. Understanding the field, mechanical draft system include positive pressure in system, where a fan pushes the products of combustion out, and the negative pressure system, where a fan pulls the product of combustion out. For mechanical draft system, categories 1 and 2 will have a power exhauster after the appliance burner, often at the vent termination. Categories 3 and 4 will mostly have a combustion fan before the burner. Illustration 6H power exhaust. Power exhauster must be interlocked with automatically fired appliances so that the appliances doesn't run when the power exhauster isn't running. Power exhausters are sized and installed according to the appliance's manufacturer instruction. Fast facts: chimney or vent with power exhauster need to be at least 10 feet from the lot line or from adjacent building. Termination of mechanical draft
Termination
system.
code regulations. When the code talks about chimney and vent terminations, It is talking about where the flue gases exit the chimney or vent. There are specific requirements surrounding terminations to prevent flue gases from re-entering buildings, being a breathing hazard for people outdoors, and to prevent the dangerous accumulation of flue gases. Also, there are requirements to protect the equipment.
Study tip: horizontal and vertical termination requirements. Walk away at least 7 feet above adjusting walk away. Okay. Forced air inlet, building intake. If termination is within 10 feet horizontally from the air inlet, it must be at least 3 feet above the inlet. Door, window, or gravity air inlet at least 4 feet below, 4 feet to the side of, or 1 foot above the inlet. Interior corner at least 3 feet away from corner. Adjusting roof structure at least 3 feet away from the roof structure. Oil tank, vent, and gas meter termination cannot be above or within 3 feet horizontal of vent or meter. Above grade at least 1 foot above grade. Terminations must have an installed vent cap to block out rain. Factory built chimney in International Mechanical Code 2021 Chapter 8 Section 805, International Fuel Gas Code 2021 Chapter 5 Section 506. The last section in International Mechanical Code Chapter 8 and International Fuel Gas Code Chapter 5 tees up a few random requirements for factory-built chimneys. As usual for factory-built equipment, the code required the manufacturer installation instruction are followed. There are the notable requirements from those selections that may appear off the test. Let's take just few moments to highlight them together as we close out this module. Study tip: factory built chimney code requirements. Factory built chimney are required to meet UL 103 testing standard. Indwelling unit chimney for solid fuel burning appliances must be type HT and be labeled as such. Offset in chimney cannot be more than 30 degrees from vertical and can have no more than 4 elbow. Where passing through insulated assemblies, factory-built chimney required a steel insulation shield at least 0.0187 inch thick, 26 gauge, ending at least 2 inches above the insulation. Fast facts: most UL 103 chimney will be double wall assemblies with solid material between the two walls. Okay, this all about the chimney and connector chapter 6 in the code. Let's take quiz. Okay, if we didn't answer it correctly, we will revise it together for this 5 question. A brick chimney connected to wood burning stove is listed to have 18 inches combustible without protection. When using a protective assembly of 24 gauge galvanized steel held 1 inch from the combustible, what is the required clearance to combustible? Okay, I think it will come 12. This is good question. A chimney is 4 feet tall. What is the maximum horizontal length of single wall connector connected to this chimney? Okay. What is the maximum horizontal length? Okay. As we know, the maximum horizontal length we multiply by 0.75. It will be 30. A 4-inch diameter single wall connector is used to connect category 1 appliance to chimney. How much does maximum capacity of vent connector have to be reduced if the connector has a 90-degree elbow and 45-degree elbow? We will check the table. According to the reduction, it will be, I don't know, maybe we must revise the table. A 5-inch diameter type P double wall connector is used to connect a category one appliance to chimney with multiple appliances connected. How does much the maximum capacity or vent connector have to be reduced in the connector horizontal length is 15 feet. The reduction. Clean out is required at the bottom of the masonry chimney. The minimum height of the clean out opening is 6 inch, and the upper edge of the opening must be at least below the lowest. Get result. See the correct answer. The correct answer is 18. International Mechanical Code, because it is a masonry chimney. The following section applied. The clearance reduction method specified to table shall not be utilized to reduce clearance with for masonry chimney. So there is no reduction. There is no reduction in this one. Let's go to the next one. Chimney is 40, as we know. This is 75 of the height and 4 inches. Diameter single. It will be the reduction. It will be 40%. A 5-inch type. Let's check this for reduction. What is the reduction? Each additional multiple of allowed as seen in table. This table of reduction, we must write it. A clearance, it is 6 inch on sections to clean out the bottom of the masonry. So that's all for chimney. And connectors. Chimney and connectors. This is all about chimney and connector. This in chapter number 6.